It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is rubbin'minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchendu. Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us on our journey again in 2020. Like I said in our last show last year, this was supposed to be the magical year. I'm sure everybody in Nigeria is very familiar with Vision 2020 and all the great things it was meant to bring to this country. We know clearly that a lot of them are not going to come to pass, but hopefully we can ring our way through it and have a better 2020 than we did 2019. We're going to be looking at a lot of factors that will be shaping this year, starting with, of course, the economy. We're going to be talking about entertainment and then politics. But first, like I said, to discuss the economy in 2020 with me, I have two very special guests here, Bola Lojede and Gospel Obele. Thanks for being here today. And Happy New Year to both of you. We're just going to go straight into it. And I want to start with what I feel like is a mixed sort of signal that people get. There's a lot of talk about, you know, the economy is going to grow this year by almost 3%. I think I hear between 2.4 and 2.8%, the GDP. There's talk about, you know, disposable income with households might also be a little better. But we also hear talks about the fact that the economy might also not do as well. There's rumors everywhere, people saying, oh, make sure you save your money in dollars because the Naira is going to crash and all of this. What is really happening?
Well, from all indication, I don't think that the growth is going to be significantly more than what has been projected anyway. And that is not exciting enough. We've been growing at this 2%, 1.9, 2.1 for a while now. And when you think about the fact that we're a nation growing at 2.6, 2.7%, and the GDP is growing at 2%, there's obviously a disconnect. And you can feel that when you also go into the number of people we are releasing into the labor market. According to the World Bank, for the last 5 years, we've released about 19 million people into the labor market, but we've created 3.5 million jobs. So 19 million, 3.5 million jobs. Let's even say World Bank record is wrong. Let's say it's half of that number. It is still a significant gap between the job being created and the people we are releasing to take the job. So that means we need to grow faster. We need to grow at a higher rate than what we have been doing.
Yeah.
So it's not a particularly exciting growth rate.
Yeah. Unemployment is a very, very important discussion for a lot of people because, first of all, we know we're a very young country. A lot of the youth are also unemployed, which means a significant part of the country is not working. And those are people who should be engaged. Where do you see possibly jobs coming from this year, if at all?
So one of the major reasons why there's been a huge disconnect, because even when growth was at 7% in 2014, unemployment was still growing. So it's not necessarily the percentage of growth per se. It's been that growth has not been inclusive. So you've had a lot of growth, and then that's economic activities, buying and selling and commerce and all of that, but it has not translated to more jobs. And that's because the major dynamics around job creation has not been properly put into place. So the necessary infrastructure, in terms of hard infrastructure and soft infrastructure. So hard infrastructure in terms of roads, bridges and all the likes, and then soft infrastructure in terms of the value systems and all of those things that, you know, would create jobs. And then you have a situation where all of the policies and program and initiatives by government to create jobs have been more patchy than sustainable. So you look at the social investment and the likes that people talk about, you know, they really patch the wound, not necessarily treating the wound itself. So, and then you have a situation where there's a disconnect within the education sector and all that. So you can't have so many cluster of disconnects in different sectors. And then you have your economy growing either at a faster or slower rate. It doesn't necessarily matter. But as far as you have so many disconnects, there'll be a continual divergence when it comes to job creation or reducing unemployment and then the growth.
There seems to be a lot of talk about agriculture. Is it overrated? You know, the fact that agriculture is going to save us, both the economy and unemployment, is it overrated?
I think it's not overrated, but we are not discussing the necessary enablers around the sector. And one key thing is education, technology and infrastructure. Those three important things to build the necessary human capital. And then there's another side to it again, export and access to markets, right? So even if you produce, and for example, take the rice case now, you produce your own rice, you know, you need to be, it has to get to the point where they're exportable and they're globally competitive. You don't want to export rice with stones and rice with sands, you know? So agriculture has to be much more inclusive in terms of the conversation on infrastructure, education, technology, and then access to markets. Yeah.
Let's talk about the border closure, because that was a big talking point towards the end of last year, and it's still ongoing, I hear, at least for another month or so. But we don't know if it's something that might even go on for longer, if government decides that maybe they need... Are we seeing any results from that? Is that healthy for the economy? Is this something that we should be sort of clamoring for? Because there's talk about the fact that local farmers like it. But the economy, is it translating to the economy?
I met one of the rice people, he's the CEO, and he said before the closure, he had about 8 billion in inventory. And since that closure, he has been smiling to the bank. But you see, the problem is not that the border closure itself is bad or is good. It is the fact that it has to be basically an interventional measure. It's not a sustainable thing. You're not going to grow your rice just simply by closing your borders. For example, in terms of rice, yield in Nigeria is about 1.8 metric tons per hectare, according to the KPMG report. Whereas in China, you have 6.9 metric tons. In Egypt, 8.2 metric tons. So it seems as if we will get much more if we invest in science and technology for the rice to rev up the yield from 1.8. Even if we double the yield today, the impact will be phenomenal. Yeah. And we're not going to get that just by closing your border.
But those are like long-term sort of investments you're talking about.
You see, sometimes we have to start at some point.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it has been done in some other parts of the world means that we can actually leapfrog. We don't have to start from the beginning. That's the truth. You know, so it should be interventional. Whatever we need to do and get back to normalcy, we need to do it and get back to normalcy. You can't close your border forever. It's not sustainable.
Let's talk about one of the most contentious issues in the world right now. I mean, I think we all woke up on, must have been 2 days ago, and World War III was trending across social media. And I mean, Iran and America seem to be flexing their muscles. But as scary as it might sound for a lot of people, it might be good news for us, isn't it, with regards to oil prices, which have already gone up already. And I don't know how long this tussle is going to go on for, but what does that do for us?
In my opinion, I think it's flipping your conversation a bit. You find out that it's still not sustainable any way we want to think about it, because we cannot keep basing the economy on oil.
Our budget this year is, whether we like it or not.
Well, about 52% is now based on oil receipts. Well, we need to start thinking of how well we can diversify the non-oil revenue sector in terms of both revenue base and then exportables into access to markets, international markets and the likes. So, and that way then improve our opportunities to earn foreign exchange, you know, outside oil, and then build the necessary infrastructure and all we need to enable a country where it's more non-oil, you know, focused and oil sector focused. But I don't see that happening soon, because I mean, during the ministerial selection and all that, you usually found the president retaining himself as the petroleum minister, and that tells you where the political energy, the political will, and the focus still remains. So there is a lot of call back to action that needs to be done so that the economy is strategically positioned towards this. So the events that are happening now, if any way you want to look at it, it's not still sustainable, it's not still healthy, primarily for the core of the Nigerian economy. When you talk about moving a critical mass out of poverty or building an economy that's a bit more competitive, then we need to begin to look away from all of these events and build something more sustainable around the non-oil.
So you don't think it's going to do anything in the short term for the economy?
In the short term.
I'll leave my colleague to
this year, it's not going to have any effect, whatever, on our budget, the deficit, nothing at all?
In the short term, I think $57 was the benchmark.
Yeah, it was the benchmark, yes.
Crude Brent was like 70.
Already.
So definitely it will help. It could mean that we will borrow less. It could also mean that we will pile it up in our excess crude account and be able to deploy appropriately to infrastructure. You know, so in the short run, fine. But the problem of Nigeria is more systemic. In the short run,
do you see any willpower? Because, I mean, I feel like everybody in Nigeria knows what we need to do. We've all talked about the fact that we need to diversify. I feel like diversifying the economy is like a mantra that every government comes in with.
Of willpower, I think, has been a bit overestimated. Now, you know, people can have the will to do something, but they are not able to do it. So political will is one, which I think we haven't gotten right yet. But then the capacity, that's the ability or the ability to get these things done. And in terms of ability, you want to think of funding, and you don't think of institutional capacity to get them done.
Yeah.
So no matter what the budget size is on whichever sector, allocating what to what, if you're putting money in baskets, or if you can't fetch water with a basket. So if you're putting money in ineffective institutions through which these monies are expected to move towards policy programs and to develop the economy and the likes, you find out that because you have that institutional ineffectiveness, your monies or the budget implementation can be very, very low or very weak.
Yeah.
So it's not just the political will, but the capacity as a political institution or the capacity of the political economy to move from will to action to strategic results. Yeah.
All right, let's talk taxes now. And I want to get both your opinions on this because that was also a big talking point at the end of last year. We're hearing that VAT is going to be increased from 5% to 7%. We did have a change of guards at the FIRS. So nobody's sure how this year is going to shape up. New tax regime, new tax boss, and there's a lot of talk about how we need to generate more revenue from tax. What do you see happening?
Well, the finance bill has been passed anyway. I think it will definitely be implemented. From my window, I think it's one of the most fundamental economic reform policies that came out of last year. That finance bill itself comprises of a whole lot of things, just that, the VAT part is what a lot of people like to discuss about. But it's much more than the VAT. The VAT in itself, the way VAT is structured is to be able to affect the lowest part or rung of the ladder the least. So everything that they consume, basic food, even transportation, is excluded. Now, we also now have a situation in which some people are not even expected to be VATable, to be assessed to VAT, 25 million revenue and all of that. So it's a nicely structured start for revamping our taxation. But the issue in the taxation space is more pervasive and deeper than what we're looking at. There's a problem of a trust capital. When you're asking someone to bring taxes, there's this unwritten rule that I'll give you my taxes, you use it for my benefit. But if those same people are not seeing the benefit, so they still provide their own security, they provide their own infrastructure, everything, practically everything, it becomes difficult. Anytime taxes are mentioned, people go ballistic, and rightly so. So on one side, we need to build the trust capital, while on the other side, we must realize that we have a very horrible tax to GDP ratio. It's like having an asset base that you cannot sweat. Look at Nigeria's GDP, and let's compare it with South Africa. We are slightly bigger than South Africa. But do you know that the VAT income in South Africa is bigger than the entire Nigerian budget? So how come South Africa is able to generate an equivalent of more than what we are, and we with the bigger budget are struggling, depending on oil and struggling with some other things here and there? It shows there's a systemic inefficiency. Yeah. So the finance bill is a good start, but we need to do a lot more. Yeah. And for us to be able to get better with people, to encourage people to want to pay taxes, they must see that money is being properly used. So we must build a trust capital with the people. Just to play devil's advocate here, there's the argument as well that there's not enough gotten from the taxation anyways to do anything, and which is why they need to get more, and which is why the drive is stronger to increase. People, they always give examples of like Lagos State, for example, when there was more money, we started seeing things being done. Is that a fair argument?
I don't think so, because Nigeria is a developing economy, in quotes, developing. But the challenge you find out is that in the 21st century, the economics of developing nation is such that you can't introduce just one policy and expect that policy to flag as the major thing that would drive everything, because there are also counter sides to these policies. So the finance bill is good, but taking a cue from what you just said now, when you adopt that bill, once that bill goes into action and the likes, you find a situation where the guys who are even expected to pay 7.5% in VAT will keep struggling. So there's more cost implication on their businesses, as opposed to trying to ease that process of doing business. So you find out that generally there are more cost implications for a particular segment of the SME space, that's small, medium, and large enterprises. There's the more cost implications for them. And then on the flip side, you discover that it leads to that drag in economic activities over a period of time. So as much as, yes, the bill makes sense, the 7.5% makes sense, I would rather we probably even seek to increase the tax net than increasing the tax rate. So increasing the tax net will now require probably more of tax incentives. So yes, we need taxes to drive revenue, but why not increase the incentives, increase the incentives to comply, improve compliance, and all of these things, the online payments and the likes, and then increase that accountability of government in the way that, once the tax revenue comes in, people are seeing, the benefits and the likes, and cut down cost of governance. There are other ways to reduce leakages or close leakages in the system, not necessarily trying to improve the tax rate. So I think it's a good policy, but it's fairly misfired in the wrong direction and may increase more costs for the seemingly thriving net of the SME space than bringing that advancement or progress we need as a nation.
Plenty issues we have to sort out. But I want to also close on a sort of positive note, and from both of you now. I mean, there has to be something that you're looking forward to in the year with regards to the economy. What are you excited about, or what are you positive about with regards to Nigeria's economy this year?
Well, for me, I hope that we will be able to do more of the right things. There are some fundamental issues we've not been able to deal with over the years, and I'm just hoping. For example, in Nigeria today, we still think that the multiple exchange rates are okay. We still finance people who are going to Jerusalem or Mecca or wherever, leaving the Orunmila people stranded, And we still don't think there's something wrong if fuel is 145 here, but it's 360 across the border. And what do we need to do? Because people will tell you that is the only thing I benefit from this government, So essentially, we need to get in that space of citizens' education so that citizens can understand exactly what is going on. And at the same time, we continue to do more of the right things. If you do more of right things, this economy can even do better than it is currently doing. Right?
I think it would be nice for us to focus more on the unconventional factors that will shape the outcome of the Nigerian economy. So you find out that the conventional are more of oil price and all that, but the unconventionals are the major what we need to do to move the economy from A to B. Poverty, social inclusion, and the likes. So like rightly said, more political will and then honesty in the process and all that. But for me, I'm more particular about businesses because fundamentally things may not change this year. But businesses can begin to rethink how they engage the status quo so that they can move from survival to thriving. And that will be thinking about their processes more better, thinking about probably even how to automate their processes better, thinking about how to get into new markets, thinking about how to move into mass markets, thinking about how to expand product lines, thinking about how to engage a strategic use of data, not just a bulk information that you have and you can't process that into something more strategic for your business. So I think businesses can thrive either ways, but it just means that it's going to be a bit more difficult and they have to be a bit more strategic. So the landscape may not change, particularly this year, but businesses can do things that would help them.
Very, very quickly before we go, security. How much is that going to affect this year? There's pockets of things happening almost across the country.
Already.
Very quickly.
If you ask me, I think the federal government need to do some engagement because I'm surprised that towards the end of last year, things seems to be getting better as far as security is concerned. The headsman thing, the kidnap, all those things seem to have
simmered down.
Then all of a sudden, we started hearing killing of 20 people in Kogi and all that stuff. I'm worried, I'm concerned that it might not just be insecurity for insecurity's sake. There may also be the need to engage certain people or groups so that we can manage insecurity. Because without security, we can't do much.
Yeah.
We can't do much.
All right, thank you very much. I wanted us to touch on the budget because I'm seeing some very interesting figures here. 262 billion for works and housing, but 46 billion for health.
Those are jokes.
46 billion for health for the entire country. Thank you very much for being here today. We'll probably have to continue this conversation some other time.
Good to be here. Thank you.